Hi everybody, welcome to Dandelion Cottage and Watercolor Wednesday. I'm Leslie Watkins. Well, how's your new year going for you so far? Mine's going pretty good here. I've been really busy and I have a wonderful new project that I'm very excited about that I've been working on for the past couple of weeks. And I'm going to be sending out the email to let you know about it in just a few more days. I still have a little bit more to do before I can get the photographs to show you what it is that I have in mind. And today I'm going to be doing a big watercolor picture to serve as a background for some of the elements that I'm going to be including on this project. And if you're interested in learning more about what's coming up and you want to get on the mailing list so that you can be invited to participate, please go to dandelioncottagedesign.com and subscribe to notes. And after the video today, I will be posting all of those links below. But you can go there and check it out. There's a lot more information. And there are links for the Watercolor Card Club. There's information about me, my classes, what I do, and how you can shop for some of the supplies that I use. So you want to check that out. So I have been thinking about what I was going to be painting today for quite a while, several days, and I decided that I was going to do something that had to do with dandelions and with honeybees. I have been a beekeeper in the past, and I have kept honeybees, so I know a little bit about them. Not much, because no matter how long you take care of honeybees and how long you keep them, there's always more to learn. They're absolutely fascinating, magical creatures. And the project that I have that I'm in the midst of designing for you is going to have some of the elements of beekeeping, bees, and dandelions. And so that's why I am going to be using this as a theme. But the funny thing is that this morning I got a notice on my Facebook that one of my friends sent me, one of my team members, and it was actually a picture of a dandelion, a watercolor of a dandelion. I thought, wow, I must be on the right track because this is a sign that this is what I should be doing today. So let's get started. I have a piece of hot press watercolor paper. I've already given it a little bit of a spritz, so it's had a chance to get saturated. It's not super wet saturated, but the water has had time to penetrate into the surface. So before we get started, I just want to check and make sure that we're all connected here. Okay, there we go. Wet saturated, but the water. Oh, and there's quite a few of you with me. Hello, everybody. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Catherine, Sandra, and Becky, and Peggy. Good to see you all here today. And there's the telephone. Lots going on. That phone will stop ringing in just a few minutes. So anyway, so this is hot press watercolor paper. And usually you see me painting with three colors, the red, yellow, and blue. But today I want to get a little more variation in the tonality. So I have my larger watercolor set out today. So this one has my yellows, my reds, and my blues. It also has a string of earth colors, and that's got some specialty colors. I've got some white gouache and I've got some gold paint. The colors that I'm primarily interested in are these warmer colors. And the way I have this set up is I've got a cool and a warm yellow. This is a warm and a cool red. This is a cool and a warm blue. And I'm not going to go into temperature today. Um, although it's freezing out here, by the way. I don't know where you all are, but yesterday it was in the single digits, and today it looks pretty cold too. I haven't been out yet. But when I talk about temperature in painting, I'm talking about whether or not a color leans to the warm end of the spectrum or the cooler end. And of course, everything is relative. So that's a whole topic in and of itself. If you're interested in learning more about watercolor painting, I do have a course called Beginning Watercolor, and you can again go on the mailing list for notes, and I will be sending out more information about that as time goes on. So there's lots coming up this year for all of you watercolor lovers. So I really wanted to get some of these warm colors in my dandelions, and I will show you why in just a few minutes, few seconds. I'm going to put this to the side here if I can. That'll work pretty well. Okay, so I've got my number 7 brush. I have some water off to the side. I've got a damp sponge, and I've got some paper towels ready to go. What I'm looking for is some background color and art that I can use to decorate the project that I have coming up. I'm going to be using it in a lot of different ways. So this is going to be what you would call in paper crafting a kind of a one-sheet wonder, where you take one big piece of paper and you decorate it, and then either by painting, stamping, embossing, whatever it is that you're using, and then you tear it up into smaller pieces and use it to decorate different individual other things or collage. There's a lot of different ways that you can use it. And in this project that I have coming up, I'm going to be showing you a lot of different ways that it can be used. But in this case, I just want a kind of an all-over design. I want something that features dandelions. I want it to be kind of on the pattern to be on the small side. And then I want to intersperse some little bees and spatter and other colors into the overall design. But mostly I'm going to keep it kind of neutral. I'm going to be using mostly the yellows and the reds, a little bit of green, and just keep it kind of loose and natural. I want it to be able to coordinate nicely with muslin, linen, cottons, those kind of neutral colors. So that's the overview. And I have my spritzer. If I can just grab it, and I'm just going to put a little more water on here and there, because it's dried up a little bit since I started. And it doesn't have to be in every single place. All right, and I'm just going to take a very loose, washy mixture of my yellow, and I'm just going to start to dab that around. This is going to be very impressionistic, at least at first. There may be some sections that I decide to work on a little more later once it's dry, but for now I'm just going to start with this kind of all over pattern. And I know you probably can't see that all that well right now, but it will get better as the painting progresses, because I'm starting very light. All right, so there's just some little splotches of yellow all over the place. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin to take my warmer yellow and I'm going to just drop that right into those splotches for a little more dimension, a little more variation in color. Now, because the dandelions have so many petals, I'm not going to try to paint each and every one, but what I can do is I can just put some brush strokes here and there to kind of indicate where some of those petals might be. So just a little calligraphy with the brush. And while the paper isn't absolutely saturated, there are places where it's very wet, so the color's going to move really nicely. All right, and then I'm going to take some of this red. I'm going to mix up some orange. I'm going to put a little bit of that. Okay, and next, I think what I want to do is I'm going to switch brushes. So I'm going to get out my smaller brush. This is going to be a number 4. And I'm going to mix up some green. So I'm just taking my yellow, my blue, make a nice green mixture. And using plenty of water, I'm going to just make some sort of daffodil leaf shapes. Now, in French, the daffodil is called Dandelion, and my dear friend Marie Christine is probably cringing right now with my awful pronunciation of, of French. But what that translates to is tooth of the lion, and that refers to the shape of the leaves, because the leaves have these very toothy shapes to them. And you can see I'm starting to get a lot of hard edges here because the paper is drying very quickly, and that's okay. I'll just use that to my advantage. you want to be very spontaneous with your watercolors. So one of the things that you learn is that the paint is going to move very differently at different times depending on how dry or moist the air is, how much water you're using in your mixture, the kind of paper you're using. So there's a lot of different elements that go into just the way the paint moves on any particular day. And that's why practicing and just playing like this is so important, because the only way you learn that is by experimenting. So be brave. Get out a big piece of paper and just play with your color mixtures and see what you can do. I'm adding a lot more water to the brush now because it's getting really dry. So I just want to hurry up and get the rest of these leaves on, or at least started. This project is going to have a lot of different pieces to it. So if you are someone who likes to sew or embroider, there's going to be the opportunity where you can use some of those skills. And actually, how many of you do sew? How many of you have a sewing background? I'm curious. Oddly enough, when I was a young girl, young woman, I was an embroiderer, and I would. This was back in the 70s, and I think many of you will remember how we would embroider on our jeans and denim jackets. And I would do that for a little shop in Chelsea in New York when I was about, I don't know, 21, 20, about 20, 21. That was a long time ago. And I still have my embroidery supplies. You know, you never, well, I'm speaking for myself, not for you all, but I've never gotten rid of my any of my sewing supplies. I don't have a lot of them, but I do have a few things from my grandmother and from my mother. My mother was a very good sewer, very good seamstress. She made many of her own clothes. And she got started as a girl because she was a roller skater and she would compete. And you had to have costumes, and they weren't available commercially, so you had to make your own costumes. And so that's what she did. That's how she learned how to sew. And she was wonderful. So I have her sewing kit. And then I've got these old buttons that I'm not even sure where a lot of them came from. My great grandmother gave my grandmother a doll for Christmas. And this was one of those very beautiful, very fancy French dolls with the porcelain head and the beautiful glass eyes. And she was dressed in a silk gown. a beautiful mossy green silk gown, and that gown had little mother of pearl buttons on it. And even though that beautiful gown has long since disintegrated, I still have the buttons from it. So it's interesting how women have had such a how do you say, just that, sewing was such a social. Not only was it necessary and useful and creative, but it also had a whole social element to it. And stamping, actually, paper crafting is not unlike that. But I still have many of those things that these women in my background used. How about you all? Anybody out there have some old button jars someplace? And maybe you have some old needle pin cushions that remind you of your grandmother or your mother. I've also done a little bit of beading. So in this project that I have coming up, I'm going to be incorporating a little bit of this and that. So it's going to be, or it's turning into something that's going to kind of honor the women in my background who are no longer with us. And I'm thinking of creating this kind of keepsake that not only will be kind of a tribute to them, but also useful and pretty and fun to make. So stay tuned. All right, so there's a little bit of a background, and I just want to get a little more darks in my leaves now. So I'm making a darker mixture. I'm just going to put a drop of red in there to make it even darker. You don't want to overmix your colors. Just work quickly. Now I want some spatter on here, and I'm thinking what I want is something with a little bit of gold in it. So I'm going to mix up a nice puddle of my gold paint, and then I'm just going to flick that around. I'm going to move my paper around a little bit so that the spatter goes in different directions. I think I could use another flower over here. Okay, I see somebody wrote a long message over here. What does this say? Oh, Becky has a sewing machine. Oh, excellent. Oh, Becky, you are going to absolutely love what I have coming up. That's wonderful. You know what? Get out. Why don't you? So, everybody, Becky is on my team, the Dandelion Cottage design team, and we have monthly meetings. And I often ask somebody to present and share with us their creative projects. And Becky, I'm going to call on you. I'm going to put you on the spot here and ask you to get out some of these beautiful old embroidered things and whatever you've got, and do a little show and tell at our next meeting. So plan on having a number of items. You'll have about, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes to just talk about that stuff and share it with the rest of the group. That's really exciting. I'm glad to hear that. Catherine has a button jar. I've got two. I've got a tin, and I've got a very pretty little. In fact, I'll show it to you. Hold on a second. I'll get it out. I have this beautiful little porcelain jar, and it's been repaired a couple of times. But this was my grandmother's, and you can see how gorgeous that is. That beautiful little blue accent on the edge. And in here, I have my fancier buttons. So all of these buttons, I've put them into little baggies to categorize them. But these are all abalone, all mother of pearl buttons. Show you some of these great big ones. See, so this is my very special collection of buttons that I keep in this little porcelain container. And then of course I've got one of those old cookie tins that has hundreds of other buttons in it. Oh, and crocheting, absolutely. Ginger, what are you talking about, the loss of my fur baby? Because I haven't lost any fur babies in the recently, so I'm a little bit concerned about what you're saying here, because I do have a very elderly cat. Oh dear. Oh no. Oh, it's not me that you're talking to. Is that Sandra? Oh dear, I'm so sorry. It is Sandra. Oh, Sandra, I'm so sorry. That's such a heartbreak. Okay, so this has had a little bit of a chance to dry. It's still damp, but if I bend it, maybe you can see some of those gold flecks. Okay, it's kind of subtle, which is very nice. All right, and then what I can do is I'm just gonna see if I can access my photos here. Just looking to see if I can find a. Oh my gosh, there's so many of them. All right, that's going to take too long. I'm not going to be able to do that. But I wanted to access a picture of a honeybee. So what I'm going to do is, since I don't have my photo reference handy, I'm just going to wing it Oh, get it? Wing it, honeybee. All right, and I'm just going to take a little bit of, let's see, I'll start with the yellow, and I'm just going to indicate some places here and there where I'm going to add bees. I'm just going to splash them all over the page. And then when the video is over, I'll put a little more detail into these bees. Because I'm so nearsighted, I have to get my face right up close to the paper to see what I'm doing. And all you would see is the back of my head. So I will add those details afterwards, and you'll be able to look at that in the pictures that I post. All right, so there are some little areas that I've indicated for the bees. And now I'm just going to take this kind of a gray mixture. So I'm just grabbing, I think this looks like I've got some Payne's Gray on my palette here, but I'm going to warm that up. Let's see. I think what I want to do is I'm going to mix that's better. That's the color I'm looking for. All right, so I'm just going to begin to build these bee shapes. In the next watercolor card club, which will be in February, I'm thinking about teaching you how to paint a bee from scratch. So it's not definite yet. I'm just thinking it over. What do you think? Are my watercolor card club members out there? Do any of you have any interest in learning how to paint a bee? Could be fun. All right, and I'm just going to take a very pale, kind of a gray mixture to indicate wings. Now, when I use this paper, a lot of this will be covered up with other elements, and that's fine. That's the intention. So it's not important for me to go into tremendous detail here because you won't see it. But just a little bit here and there to give a little impression. Okay. Well, I like the way this is coming along. This is just the beginning. I'll give you a close-up so you can see better what this is looking like. Move this over a little bit. Okay, so that is a very quick and easy way that you can just splash some color around and get some little points of interest. So let's see. Once these bee bodies are dry enough, you can add some stripes. That looks pretty cute. All right. So I think that gives you the idea of the direction that I'm going in with this. And I hope that inspires you to get out your watercolors and a big piece of paper and just splash around and have fun. Stay tuned for the big announcement for this project that's going to be going out in the next couple of days. Make sure you're on the mailing list by subscribing to Notes from Dandelion Cottage. And I'll let you know what I have coming up, how you can register, what you'll need, and all sorts of other good things. So that's all I've got for you today. Let me just see, does anybody have any questions? Oh, Ginger says yes to painting bees. Cool. All right. Well, maybe we'll do that. Yeah, I'll think about that a little bit more. Stay well, everybody. Stay safe. Stay happy. Stay creative, and I will see you next time.